I'm going to show you exactly how to develop a very special ability, and it's not going to take a lot of time. So if you watch this video to the very end, your life's going to get a lot easier, a lot simpler, just a lot better. And I can virtually guarantee it because it's happened exactly the same way for me, having read 1,000 books in the last 7 or 8 years. And one of the things that stops so many people from reading these great books that they want to read is they just cannot find what is the best use of their time. They can't decide where to start. And you really have to get started because of all like the millions of successful people out there who've done the things that we all want to do. A massive part of the answer for most of them was reading. I mean, it's one of the common denominators from all of these like happy, successful, fulfilled people. They are big time readers. So I've got 2 simple steps for you, and we're starting right now. I'd also like to thank my supporters on Patreon for making all this possible and just making what I do so much fun. I really enjoy having the support, and like you need support if you want to do creative work. You need people sort of in your corner, on your side, that are looking forward to the stuff that you create, and that's the people on my Patreon. So I thank each and every one of them. And so getting started here with the very first step, and it's really picking a problem that you have, a current challenge that you're facing, and deciding that is what you are going to address. Because a long time ago, and I remember the video, Will Smith looked really young in this video. He was giving a speech, and what he told this audience full of kids, which I thought was so amazing and so accurate, was that there are 2 keys to life: running and reading. And I won't get into why running is one of the keys to life or whatever, but with respect to reading, he says that there are no new problems in the entire world. So basically, whatever, like any problem that you're facing or challenge that you're difficulty that you're feeling, that you're dealing with, there's someone out there who has faced something similar, has come a long way to finding a solution, or has found a solution, and they've written about it in a book that is available, either for free online, or for free at the library, or for like $10 at the bookstore. It's out there for you, and it's just is readily available, and you just need to know where to access these books. And so a very good place to start is sort of like looking at what's holding you back right now, and thinking about what the biggest problem that you're facing in your entire life is. So I won't dive into what I'm sort of working on right now, but I have a list of sort of constraints and bottlenecks and things like that that are holding me back. So as I've sort of advanced in my career, I need to really upgrade the level of my decision making. So a lot of what I'm learning about now is decision making and macroeconomics and stuff like that. Sort of making the best choices with my investments and stuff like that. But that's like where I am. A few years ago, it would have been business and making money online and stuff like that that I had to learn, and so I read books about that. And then before that, it was listening and communicating with people and stuff like that. So basically, for every problem that I had, there was a book out there that helped me to solve that problem and remove that constraint and allow me to move forward. So that's just a simple thing that you can do. So you can see that there are so many great books out there on all of these topics, and I've got an additional reading list down below on my website. You can find it in the video description. It's free. It's got my best reading recommendations from like 1,000+ books in a whole bunch of different categories. You can find that down below, but you can see that like whatever it is, there's something that you can like a book that you can find that will immediately help you with that. But I will say that there are a few things to keep in mind, and I won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but one thing that you should be sort of consider is that you want to go really specific. And a really good example here would be business books. So there are a lot of like general business principle books, but if there's a problem that you're like specifically dealing with, like you can't hire good people, there are books about hiring and employee retention and morale, and things of that nature, right? So it's best to go specific, and you also want to find a really, really good source and someone who's credible, who's actually done it before. So like instead of like buying some get rich fast in like 64 days thing by like some guy you've never heard of, you can pick up a book like the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, who is like this like super successful tech investor. Like he's what he says in the book, he's that he used to be poor and miserable, and now he's rich and happy, and like he worked at those things. And there's this book that details like what exactly he found. And no surprise, the book's fantastic and it's like super popular, and it's worth reading because he's actually done it before. He's like a credible source. So you always want to look at the source, and you also want to focus on current problems as opposed to future problems. So there's an author, MJ DeMarco. He calls he calls it when you focus on like problems that you don't have yet. He calls them Ferrari problems. So like if you're building a business, like you decide you want to start this business, and then you immediately go car shopping for Ferraris, as opposed to like figuring out how to get your first customer. So he calls that Ferrari shopping. So you want to focus on finding that first customer before you start looking at expensive cars. So that's really kind of what I'm thinking about here. So make it specific. Make sure that it's a credible source that's writing this book, and make sure it's a current problem that you're dealing with, not some future problem that you might have down the road. It's all about like removing constraints and bottlenecks, like we talked about. And the final step, by which I mean the second step, there are only 2 steps, to finding spectacular books to read, is to follow what you can't stop thinking about. So for me, it's the phenomenology of consciousness. I love thinking about thinking, peak consciousness, and sort of like getting the most out of your mind. So you got books like The Outsider, by Colin Wilson, and recently read a book about Gurdjieff called The War Against Sleep. It's all about, and actually another Colin Wilson book, Super Consciousness, was really good. Stephen Kotler's books are really good there. It's all those things that I can't stop thinking about. So that is naturally what I gravitate towards. So it's easy for me to find great books to read because, I just think, what can I not get enough of? And like, okay, philosophy. And then that sort of narrows the field. So as opposed to having like millions and millions of books that I could read, I think about what I'm more interested in than anything else in the entire universe, and it's philosophy. So that narrows everything down, and I can sort of make an informed choice about what to read next. And it's just super simple, and it's a skill that you can use for your entire life. Go for problems and the things that you cannot stop thinking about. And of course, some books are better than others. You're going to start reading books that you just don't care about, that you think, you might have enjoyed, but you sort of get a few chapters in, you realize this just isn't for you. And it's okay. I mean, you should be able to, you should start more books and quit more books as well. So what I like to do, like there's nothing wrong with this whatsoever, I don't think. What I do is, I download, if it's a book that I can't find, at the library or bookstore or whatever, really cheaply, I'll download it for free on the internet, and I'll read a few chapters, and if I like it, then I'll go buy it. It totally removes the risk. I do believe that you should, pay the authors for, reading these great books, but don't let that stop you from trying more books. Don't think that, oh, well, I can't, it's going to cost me $10 to even decide, whether or not I like this book, therefore I'm not going to do it. Don't do that. Just find some way to get it into your hands, and then make an intelligent choice from there. And hopefully, if you enjoy that book, then later on, you'll buy the full copy, full version. So there you have it. I've used those 2 steps to find 1,000+ books in the last few years to read. It definitely works. It's a skill that didn't take a whole lot of time to develop. I mean, we just spent a few minutes together, and now you can take this skill and apply it as a filter every time you're deciding what to read in the future. Am I really, can I not stop thinking about this? And is it going to solve a problem that I have right now specifically? So I would love it if, one, if you like the video, definitely like it, but leave a comment down below if you have any sort of extra advice for other people or questions for me, suggestions for future videos. I read all the comments. I try to respond to every one of them within 24 hours. And also, for every new subscriber to the channel, I donate $1 to the children's charity First Book, and they buy books for kids who can't afford it. Books, or kids who want to read books and they can't afford them, First Book hooks them up. So I love doing that. And right over here are 2 videos that YouTube thinks you might want to watch next. So check those out. And other than that, train hard, read heavy, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.